For decades, scientists believed the origins of Homo erectus, and by extension our own species, were pinned down to a neat chapter 2 million years ago. But startling new facial reconstruction evidence is forcing experts to confront something unthinkable. The human story was never that simple. If the face of early Homo erectus looks far more modern, just how much deeper do our roots go, and what else have we been missing all along? For much of the last century, the story of Homo erectus seemed neatly arranged. Textbooks described a species that appeared in Africa around 2 million years ago, bridging the gap between more primitive hominins like Australopithecus and our own genus, Homo sapiens. The timeline felt secure, anchored by fossils like the Trineal skullcap unearthed in Indonesia in 1891 and the East Turkana skulls from Kenya, dated to about 1.9 million years ago. These finds, tested and retested using argon-argon dating and careful stratigraphic analysis, gave researchers confidence that Homo erectus belonged to this early period. In classrooms around the world, charts showed a clear progression: small-brained, ape-like ancestors giving way to upright walkers with larger brains, modern body proportions, and the first real signs of endurance running and tool use. Homo erectus was cast as the pioneer, leaving Africa, surviving shifting climates and thriving across continents for nearly 2 million years. This model depended on the reliability of dating methods and the apparent consistency of fossil traits. The idea that facial complexity or advanced behaviors evolved slowly, step by step, became a cornerstone of human origins research. With each new discovery fitting the pattern, the timeline seemed unshakable. But as new evidence surfaces, the boundaries of this familiar story begin to blur. Early fossil discoveries offered only fragments, partial skull caps, isolated jaws, and scattered teeth. With so few complete faces to study, researchers had to fill in the blanks. Most reconstructions were based on what little survived, often piecing together features from different individuals and even different regions. The result was a series of textbook images showing Homo erectus with a heavy brow, a sharply projecting jaw, and a face that leaned closer to an ape than a human. These depictions weren't just artistic choices, they were shaped by the evidence at hand and the assumptions of the time. Scientists believed that facial complexity, like a flatter face or a prominent nose, evolved gradually alongside larger brains and new behaviors. The idea was simple: the more primitive the fossil, the more it should look like our distant ancestors. But the reality of the fossil record made this a risky bet. Most early Homo erectus remains were distorted, crushed, or incomplete, making it nearly impossible to see subtle features. Every new find had to fit the mold, reinforcing the image of a slow, step-by-step transformation. As more fossils turned up, cracks began to show. Some skulls hinted at unexpected variation, but with so little material, it was easy to dismiss these as outliers. The tools for reconstruction were limited, and the pressure to fit fossils into a neat evolutionary ladder was strong. Doubt crept in, raising questions about whether the classic face of Homo erectus was ever real, or just a product of missing pieces and wishful thinking. Karen Babb stands at the intersection of ancient bones and cutting-edge technology. In her lab, the process begins not with chisels or glue, but with a micro-CT scanner. Each fossil fragment, some no bigger than a thumb, passes through the scanner, which slices the bone into thousands of digital layers. For the DN5 specimen, more than 4,000 slices were taken for each fragment, capturing every ridge and subtle curve at a resolution undreamed of in earlier decades. This is not just about making a digital copy. The scanner's precision means that even the faintest surface details, tiny cracks, old breaks, mineral stains, can be detected and mapped. These slices are then stacked to create a three-dimensional mesh, a virtual model of the bone that can be rotated, zoomed, and measured without risking damage to the original fossil. Each mesh is a data-rich portrait, accurate down to fractions of a millimeter. Babb's team uses this digital toolkit to solve a puzzle that has frustrated generations of paleoanthropologists: how to assemble a face from scattered, incomplete pieces. In the past, reconstruction meant physically fitting fragments together, often with guesswork and the risk of permanent mistakes. Now, with virtual models, every alignment can be tested, reversed, and refined. Algorithms help match breaks and edges, while anatomical landmarks guide the placement of each piece. The result is a digital fossil assembled with a level of accuracy that was impossible just a decade ago. This technology transforms each bone from a static artifact into a source of dynamic information, opening the door to discoveries that would have been invisible to the naked eye. The final digital model flickers to life on the screen, revealing a face that stops the team in their tracks. The brow is less jutting than expected, the nasal bridge surprisingly flat, and the jaw, while still strong, sits beneath cheekbones that sweep forward, not back. This is not the heavy, ape-like visage from the old textbook drawings. Instead, DAN5's features echo something unexpected, a blend of primitive strength and a hint of human familiarity. Karen Babb studies the reconstruction, measuring angles and proportions. The brain case, though small by modern standards, fits within the known range for early Homo erectus. But the face tells a more complicated story. The nose is narrow, the projection reduced, and the dental arch houses large molars, traits that link DAN5 to even older hominins like Homo habilis. Yet, these features appear alongside a brain case unmistakably Homo erectus in shape. Michael Rogers, standing beside the workstation, points out the mosaic of traits. The face doesn't fit the neat ladder of progress once imagined. Instead, it suggests a patchwork of inherited features, some ancient, some advanced. The flatness of the nasal ridge stands out most. In classic African Homo erectus, the nose is usually taller, the face flatter. Here, the primitive structure persists, defying expectations for a fossil dated to 1.5 million years ago. What makes the discovery even more startling is what lies in the sediment around DAN5. Stone tools, Oldowan flakes, possibly even early Acheulean hand axes, rest in the same layer as the skull. The direct association between face and tools is rare. It hints at a creature capable of shaping its world, using its hands and perhaps its voice in ways scientists never linked to such an archaic face. The reaction in the lab is a mix of disbelief and excitement. Babb calls the face more primitive than classic African Homo erectus, while Rogers sees it as a reminder that evolution rarely draws straight lines. The old story of a slow, steady march toward modernity falls away. In its place stands a new face, one that complicates and enriches our understanding of what it meant to be human in the deep past. The reconstructed face from Gona doesn't just add detail, it shifts the entire timeline. Features once thought to have evolved later now appear much earlier, forcing scientists to reconsider when Homo erectus truly began. The mosaic of traits seen in DAN5 closely matches fossils from Dmanisi, Georgia, which date to about 1.8 million years ago. This overlap suggests that populations with similar faces and brains were already moving out of Africa by 1.9 million years ago, hundreds of thousands of years before textbook estimates. Instead of a neat sequence, the fossil chart now shows a patchwork of overlapping forms, primitive and advanced traits appearing side by side. The presence of these features across distant sites hints at rapid migration and adaptation, challenging the idea of a slow, linear progression and placing the new face squarely in the middle of a broader, more complex evolutionary web. Anthropologists now find themselves divided over what the new face means for the story of human evolution. For some, the mosaic of primitive and advanced traits in DAN5 signals the end of the tidy, ladder-like model that once shaped every textbook chart. They argue that evolution is more like a tangled web, with different forms appearing, overlapping, and sometimes vanishing without a trace. Others urge caution, pointing out that a single fossil cannot overturn decades of careful research. Skeptics remind their colleagues of the Viking DNA debates, where a handful of ancient genomes forced a rewrite of European migration history, only to be challenged by later discoveries. The call for more fossils grows louder. Researchers set their sights on new sites in Africa and Eurasia, hoping to uncover faces that might confirm or contradict what DAN5 has revealed. The debate ripples through the field, fueling a search for evidence that could finally settle the question of when and how Homo erectus truly began. Every new face unearthed rewrites the timeline we thought we knew. As technology peels back layers of assumption, the story of human origins grows older and more intricate. What else waits beneath the surface, still hidden? The next discovery could change everything. What do you think?